Well, friends, on day 2 of his first criminal trial, Donald Trump didn't fare much better than he did on day 1. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, day 2 of Donald Trump's first criminal trial saw talk of contempt, saw one of Donald Trump's criminal defense attorneys, quote, losing all credibility with the judge, and saw the first witness, a close associate of Donald Trump, testifying about a cozy little catch-and-kill arrangement to help Trump on the political front. As always, let's start with the new reporting. This from The Guardian. Headline, David Pecker tells hush money trial about paying Trump doorman $30,000 to take story off the market. And that article begins, Donald Trump sat for the second day of witness testimony in court in Manhattan on Tuesday in his criminal trial. Here's a recap of what happened. Judge Juan Merchan held off on deciding whether Trump should be fined $10,000 for attacking expected trial witnesses in direct violation of a gag order designed to protect trial participants from being the target of Trump's abuse. Judge Merchan reserved ruling from the bench on Tuesday, but he appeared deeply unconvinced by arguments from Trump's lead lawyer, Todd Blanche, that a series of social media posts were just responses to political attacks on Trump and therefore permitted. Quote, Mr. Blanche, you're losing all credibility, Merchan said. That's going to leave a mark. My editorial addition. The article continues. David Pecker, Trump's longtime ally and former publisher of the National Enquirer, was on the stand again as a prosecution witness following a brief appearance on Monday after opening statements. Pecker told the court about being invited to a meeting with Trump and his then lawyer, Michael Cohen, in New York in 2015 after Trump had just declared his candidacy for president and was seeking a friendly and powerful media insider. Quote, I said what I would do is I would run or publish positive stories about Mr. Trump, and I would publish negative stories about his opponent, and I said I would also be the eyes and ears, Pecker told jurors. Pecker said he had a great relationship with Trump over the years and considered him to be a friend, describing the former president as very detail-oriented, almost micromanaging. So friends, a man who has known Donald Trump for decades, a very close friend, associate, ally, close enough to enter into this dirty little catch-and-kill scheme to benefit Donald Trump, right? To bury, to secrete, to hide from the public damaging information that could hurt Donald Trump politically, certainly hurt his candidacy. That person, David Pecker, said Donald Trump is very detail-oriented, almost a micromanager. Well, you know what? That kind of cuts against the opening statement that Donald Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, gave to the jurors when he said, Donald Trump doesn't know why he's signing checks. He's completely removed. He's uninvolved. He's oblivious. You know, he was just writing these $30,000 checks on his personal checking account, one after another, after another, after another, to the tune of $420,000 and just giving them all to Michael Cohen, but he has no idea why. Really? Todd Blanche seems to think the jurors are required to check their common sense at the courtroom door. Don't bring it into the jury box with you. Just take my word for it that Donald Trump had no idea and wasn't all that interested in why he was writing a dozen or more $30,000 checks on his personal checking account and giving them to Michael Cohen. I told every jury that I argued to that you don't check your common sense at the door. Frankly, you bring it with you into the courtroom, into the jury box, and perhaps most importantly, into the deliberation room when you have to decide the case. Your common sense is the most important tool you have to assess evidence, to decide the credibility of the witness, and then to reach a supportable verdict. The defense would have you check your common sense at the door. Don't do it, ladies and gentlemen. But that's all I'm going to say about David Pecker's testimony at this point, because he's still on direct examination, right? The prosecutors are still kind of early on in their questioning of David Pecker. So we're going to learn a lot more come Thursday. There is no court on Wednesdays in Judge Merchan's courtroom. We'll learn a lot more come Thursday when he retakes the stand and the prosecutors take him through the rest of his direct examination. And of course, he'll be given over to the defense for cross-examination, then back to the prosecution for redirect examination. But here's what I want to circle back to, and it is the criminal contempt, the 10 counts of criminal contempt that Judge Merchan has taken under advisement. We're waiting for a ruling to see whether he's going to hold Donald Trump in contempt, and if so, what sanction, what punishment he will impose, because at the rate Donald Trump is racking up contempt charges by violating the gag order, he is very likely going to land himself in a jail cell for up to 30 days per count of criminal contempt. And there is something that was just published today by the New York Times that seems to dovetail with the reality that Donald Trump, before too long, may find himself in a jail cell. Here is the new reporting from the New York Times. Headline, "Could Trump go to prison? If he does, the Secret Service goes too." Officials have had preliminary discussions about how to protect the former president in the unlikely event that he is jailed for contempt during the trial. The only word I'll quibble with there is unlikely. Open question. The article begins, "The U.S. Secret Service is in the business of protecting the president, whether he's inside the Oval Office or visiting a foreign war zone. But protecting a former president in prison? The prospect is unprecedented. That would be the challenge if Donald Trump, whom the agency is required by law to protect around the clock, is convicted at his criminal trial in Manhattan and sentenced to serve time. Even before the trial's opening statements, the Secret Service was in some measure planning for the extraordinary possibility of a former president behind bars. Prosecutors had asked the judge in the case to remind Mr. Trump that attacks on witnesses and jurors could land him in jail even before a verdict is rendered. Last week, as a result of the prosecution's request, officials with federal, state, and city agencies had an impromptu meeting about how to handle the situation, according to two people with knowledge of the matter. That behind-the-scenes conversation involving officials from the Secret Service and other relevant law enforcement agencies focused only on how to move and protect Mr. Trump if the judge were to order him briefly jailed for contempt in a courthouse holding cell, the people said. The far more substantial challenge, how to safely incarcerate a former president if the jury convicts him and the judge sentences him to prison rather than home confinement or probation, has yet to be addressed directly, according to some of a dozen current and former city, state, and federal officials interviewed for this article. Friends, it feels like it's bound to happen. Donald Trump is going to continue to violate Judge Merchan's gag order. And at some point, Judge Merchan will have no alternative but to order him jailed, whether for a day, a week, or the 30 days per contempt of court that the New York law allows. In fact, I happen to believe Donald Trump will intentionally push Judge Merchan that far because he wants to see the inside of a jail cell. Let's assume he is sentenced to 3 days because he continues to violate the gag order. What will he do the minute he comes out? He'll say, you see what they're doing to me? So unfair. This is political persecution. This is election interference. This is a witch hunt. Now send me your money. Empty your pockets. Whatever you haven't sent me already, he will say to his gullible supporters who represent maybe 20% of the American population, send me whatever's left. Take out a loan. Mortgage your home. Send it to me. Look, I just spent 3 days in jail for you. Yeah, it's not unlikely. I think Donald Trump wants to land in jail, albeit for a brief period of time. And then the calculation will be, how bad was the 3 days versus how much money did I raise? You know what? Let me go ahead and violate the gag order again, because if I go in for a week or 10 days or 30 days, imagine how much money I can grift from my supporters. So it likely will come to that. And listen, the law enforcement authorities, federal, local, state, city, they're up to the task of confining a former president or any high government official or any well-known defendant. They're up to the task of confining that person safely. But confine him, they should. Judge Merchan should absolutely treat him like any other defendant at long last. Any other defendant with 10 counts of contempt would probably not only have been held in criminal contempt and ordered to do 30 days per count, but he would probably be revoked on pretrial release and would be sitting in a jail cell pending trial, in pretrial detention, which is something that none of the institutions of government have seen fit to do, even though they would do it to anybody else who wasn't Donald Trump. You know, and at some point, let's hope that we begin to see an equal application of the laws, not just to the poor, but the rich, not just to the powerless, but the powerful, not just for the people with no connections, no influence, but people with connections, with influence. You know, not just the black, but the white. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.